Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm waking up in not such a good vibe. Not often do you guys get to see frustration or things like that. Even though I go through a lot of stuff on the road, a lot of times I'm just super optimistic and I keep a happy, upbeat attitude because I think that gets you a long way on the road in dealing with little crises. But today I woke up and it's kind of a difficult one to handle. I hurt my wrist somehow. I don't know how I hurt my wrist exactly. It's really hurt though. Not sure if I slept wrong, if I turned wrong, if I sprained it. It was kind of hurting a little bit before I went to bed last night, but I just assumed that I'd maybe laid on it funny. And so I just went to bed like normal, and I woke up this morning and it is definitely hurt. So I thought today was a good day to kind of talk about how to deal with stuff like this on the road. Now, you might recall whenever I went to Schoolie-Palooza a couple of years ago, that Dee actually hurt her wrist because she fell. And whenever she did, it really impaired her from driving because it was her dominant hand. Guess what? Dominant hand. And this is the worst brace known to man. It's just one of these little neoprene braces that's kind of stabilizing it just a little bit. At the same time though, I don't have the big supplies to do a full-on ace bandage in my van. I thought that I did, but my safety kit was lacking just a little bit in my first aid department, and I didn't know it. I apparently used that somewhere else. So with that said, today we're gonna have to function all day long with a hurt wrist, and I'm going to show you kind of what I do in those cases and how I kind of adapt. First and foremost, I have taken and braced it so that it won't hurt quite as bad, and it's not the best again of braces. However, I may go pick up another one a little bit later on if I'm near a Walmart or a CVS or something. But next up, I have something that I keep in the van always that I recommend that you guys do too. Tylenol arthritis. Now, this is not going to be your everyday fix-all, but this stuff does really help. It's an acetaminophen based 8-hour Tylenol. These are 650 milligrams each. Definitely, if you are going to be taking anything and you have any health issues, don't take this without consulting someone first. But for minor aches and pains, bumps and bruises, things like that, these things are really helpful. Now, I've discussed on the channel previously that when I started out my channel, I had a bad back, like a super bad back. I have sciatica and it flares up. And during the time for which I started my channel, it was super bad. In fact, it was so bad that on my first trip out, we decided that we were going to hike the south rim of the Grand Canyon. And I was determined I was going to do it and fight through the pain. But every 10 or 15 minutes, I would have to sit down, like physically sit down. It didn't matter if there was a bench or not. I would have to sit down because my back would be sending pain all through my body. Now, since I've been traveling, I've actually gotten into a lot better shape. Even though I've gained weight, my back is in a much better position than it used to be just because of the physical activity and movement that I do on a regular basis. So that's super handy. But I started carrying these guys with me just as kind of something to help me out if I did need that along the way. And I haven't used a lot of them in the bottle. As you can probably hear, it's pretty full still. But today I feel as though this might be a case that we do need to use one of these because it is a joint and also potentially a tendon. I'm not sure. So we're going to see if we can't get rid of like the joint portion of the pain. And if we can isolate that, we'll feel a little bit better. But I'm also going to be taking it a little bit easier today. Instead of going on an adventure, I'm going to go and work. Now, working is also going to be hard because we're going to be moving the mouse like this, and that doesn't sound fun or pleasant, but the day must go on and we must get through it. So we're going to take one of these and then we're going to head to a Starbucks. Now, this is the fun part. Normally I would open it with this hand, but I'm going to have to open it with this hand, and this is a less coordinated hand. Oop, I made it happen. And then, the pain of just bending. Oh, okay. Now it's time for us to drink, and again, the pain of bending is just excruciating today. So, now since we've done that, we have to do all of our normal things. And I did make it a little easier for us because I didn't fully make the bed today. I just figured that was going to be too much of a difficult task. Ow! And so, on days like today, it's just going to take more time to do simple things. thing about it is, on days like today, you just kind of have to adapt to what's going on. And because you're on the road, the variables are going to be weird. That's just kind of how it goes. The variables are not the easiest whenever you're injured on the road. And so there's a few options that you can do. You can either gut through it and just modify, like I've done, where I don't make my bed and I just do the bare minimum for getting things from point A to point B until I feel better. And then we deal with the disaster that is whatever we couldn't do. Or you can take a hiatus from the road and hole up at a hotel for a couple of days. That can get kind of costly though, especially in some areas. You can go consult the doctor, but of course a lot of nomads don't have insurance, so that makes it kind of difficult. Our options are doctor, hotel, take it easy, or just continue as is and probably injure worse. Nobody wants to do that. So instead, we pick the path of least resistance, which is just attempting to do our day, just maybe at a minimal amount. And yeah, making some modifications to your day is not exactly the easiest, especially once you get into a routine. It pains me when I can't do the parts of my routine that make me feel like my home on wheels is put together. For example, I pretty much make my bed in a certain way, depending on if it's cold with extra blankets or if it's not cold without extra blankets. Today I couldn't do any of that. I just pulled the covers up so it would look less cluttered. But every time I look in the back, it's just like a freak out. Because the order that I have achieved that helps me to function on the road, to not feel like I'm in such a small space, is currently disrupted. Like, it's kind of hard to see just how disrupted it is. It just looks kind of like a blanket and stuff is kind of thrown on the bed. But this is really, really not how I like to do things. Not to mention, I still have things in my aisle, which normally would not be there. And as you can see, I couldn't even push in all my clothes. Now, I normally get all my things out the morning of. And if I would have known that I was going to be hurt, I would have done that last night before the pain super set in so that I could make sure I had everything. But this morning, finding things in my van, not using my predominant hand, was super, super hard. You know, a lot of times we think about the things like, you know, what would we do if we were like sick, like throwing up sick? Or what would we do if we had like a car accident and we had to like be in the hospital? But we don't think about the daily small bumps and bruises and weird things that happen like this. And man, this is making my life difficult. Now, I will say this. If I am filming, I am okay because I film with my non-predominant hand, which is part of the reason why you guys never seem to think that I'm looking at the camera. But guess what, guys? I am addressing you directly. But the other thing that I do with my non-dominant hand, movement's hard. I always talk with my hands. Movement's hard now, guys. Is I drive with my non-predominant hand. So we will be okay driving. Now, working could be a whole different scenario. I'm not sure how that's going to work because I do use this hand to control my mouse. And so I can only imagine it's going to be excruciating. But we have some editing to do. And this seems like the least amount of work that I can do on my physical body today other than just rest. And after so much rest, you can only imagine that I was going a little stir crazy. I'm not even leaving camp today until 11:50 because I was really trying to figure out how to proceed with this. It's the weird stuff sometimes, guys. But before we go, let me show you kind of what I have. In the Murphy bag here, I always keep a couple of wrist braces. Now, I bought a really nice wrist brace for my other wrist because at one point in time, I actually hurt my wrist while I was at base camp, and I wanted to make sure that I brought this with me just in case. The problem is this goes on the other wrist. So I need to go find one that's like this to put on this wrist because this provides a lot more support. You can see there's a metallic like plate in here that really stabilizes the wrist. I tried to use this on the other side and well, let me just show you. We'll pull this up first. And then again, this is just, okay, ow, 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 ow. And I know you're probably saying, don't do it if it hurts, but this is the best way to flex it and make sure that it's still working correctly. Now, if I were to use this one, which is the opposite side, I would have to put it in like this, from this side and in. And then, I'm gonna have to move it around a little bit more. Oh my goodness, this is not comfortable at all. Okay, so these have adjusting straps on them, and I might be able to do this. I just don't feel like it's the most sturdy, but like here we go, and then if I can get this one to undo, and then this goes around to really pull in the wrist. So I guess I technically could use this one. It just kind of feels backwards a little bit. This is what it looks like. I will say this does feel like it has more stability than the other one. So even though it's designed for the opposite side, I might be able to get away with using this for the time being, just because it puts pressure on the correct parts. So maybe we'll try this for a little while. Now, additionally, in my safety kit, you've probably seen that I have a full-on medical kit that has bandages and things like that. I also keep some various creams that you can rub on things when they're super sore. For example, if my back is sore, I have like Icy Hot. If my joints are sore, I have this really good like herbal supplement kind of rub that you can put on things. And oh my goodness, not talking with my hands is so hard. Oh, it's so hard, guys. I'm so vocal with my hands, and so when you don't have hands, it's just weird. Also, brushing hair, hard. I always brush it with this hand. So today we just kind of are going with whatever style we have. Putting on makeup, impossible. This hand right here. It's amazing how many things you truly use with your dominant hand. And so today, I guess part of the moral of this story, of this video, is challenge yourself to see how many things you can do without using your dominant hand. And then think about that when you're planning your van travels. Or if you're already on the road and haven't considered this, maybe think about it, because this is not fun. Now, interesting story that I have, because I always like to try to share fun stories with you guys. Now, whenever the whole lockdown pandemic happened, my mom, who is a teacher, had to figure out how to teach her kids things from a distance because they were all doing remote learning. She started a YouTube channel and did some really cute videos to kind of teach basic things to her kids. One of the things that they did was an experiment that showed what it would be like to do things without thumbs. You don't think about how many things that your thumbs do until you don't have thumbs. And in order to do this, she showed a day in her life of like taping her thumb down and only being able to use her regular fingers without the opposable thumb. And I thought this was just a wild and super cute idea. But now I'm kind of living that out right here with this thing. And it is much more difficult than you might expect when you do not have a portion of your body that you're used to having. Let me say. Down here I have a bag that I always keep my window things in, and I need to put the window things in it. So with this brace, at least it stabilizes so the wrist doesn't try to bend. So I can pick some things up, but I can't hold anything of value that's like got a lot of weight to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and hold this with this hand and then use this hand. And luckily these don't have to be stored in any specific way. Oh, the pulling down is hard though. The pulling down is hard. Okay, we have stored our things correctly. Yeah, that also was hard. You wouldn't think that something so light like a curtain could harm the feelings that you have. It almost leaves you like a queasy feeling. Now, a lot of you have also asked what else is in my med kit. So I thought today we could talk about what else is in my med kit. And I'm just not gonna be able to zip this because this is the hand that I zip with, and I definitely can't use the pulling action because even the weight of the pull of the zipper on this tiny bag is too much right now. So we're just gonna drop that down and hope for the best. Hope that they don't fall out somewhere weird into the van. Now, if you haven't been following my channel very long, you haven't seen my safety video. I do implore you to go back and watch that one just because it does talk a little bit about the overall safety kit that I have. However, in the medical kit specifically, I have several items, including KT tape. I also have some things for mosquito bites. I have a thermometer. I have, at any given time, a lot of different medications, including things for nasal congestion. I have some Benadryl, which Benadryl is a weird one for me. I can only take it every so often because it makes me go sleepy time, so I don't try to use it very much. I also have some basic pain meds that are not the arthritis medication, just in case I have just like a minor bump or bruise, because we don't need to take something that is so strong for that. I also have a few other things, including like smelling salts, and there's a pair of like small scissors in there so that if I do need to cut bandages, I can. There's also some like wound care things. I think all of those are very important things, and they've actually come in handy a couple times. In fact, because we're doing some story times, my dad is a mailman, and this one time, the cliche of all cliches happened to my dad. He actually got bit by a dog. Go figure, a dog doesn't like the mailman. And he didn't have a medical kit, so I actually came out to save him with my medical kit, and he was able to use several of the items inside of the kit that I carry in my van to seal up the wound and make sure that he was okay. So I think that a medical kit should always be in any vehicle that you have. It just comes in handy, but especially if you're doing van life. Okay, now it's time to do the next complicated thing, because we can't go anywhere unless we put on our seatbelt. And again, we're not going to be able to do much, so I'm just going to kind of hold it in place and then pull some extra and see if we can't modify. Okay, we did it. We did it. Now the Starbucks I'm going to is really close, so that makes me happy. But I can drive like this, so let's hit the road. Well, I say that, but we have to actually engage the van. And I don't think I can do it. No, I can't do it with this one. Okay, we're going to have to do it with the other hand. Oh, I think we're in drive. We're in drive. Okay, that's a weird feeling to reach across and do. And now we drive. Oh, cross your fingers, guys. I'm not looking forward to this. Which says a lot, because I really enjoy driving. It brings me a lot of happiness. Now, for those of you who are wondering how I'm filming this shot, I actually have a bracket. I have several of them throughout the van. A lot of you have asked how I film my driving shots, and that is how I've always been able to achieve those. A series of various brackets. One of these days, maybe I'll go through all my camera equipment if you're interested. And as you guessed, I'm on a different bracket right here, and I stop in order to change the brackets out. So every shot that you see of me just having a casual conversation takes a little bit of planning, and that's okay. I like to show these like behind the scenes things so that you can see just what goes into actually doing YouTube content. A lot of people are interested in joining YouTube, and I think that that's a great thing. I just also want people to have a realistic expectation of all the crazy that goes behind the scenes. This is a very bumpy parking lot, by the way. In fact, right here, this is where we're getting on the road again. And you can see there's part of our campsite. You know, surprisingly, in 6 years of travel, I have only had a handful of small injuries, very small injuries. In fact, I twisted my ankle whenever I was hiking in Wyoming, whenever we went to the Wind River Rally, and that was not fun, but I was okay in a couple of days. I just KT taped it and everything was good. And then I also sprained my ankle right before I did the Manitou Incline. I went ahead and pushed through, and again, just used some KT tape. I am not a person who, whenever I have a small thing happen, is going to give up. I am going to push through, and that is just how I am. At the same time, when I am stopping, you know it's very intentional, because I won't stop unless I feel like it needs to be done. So if I'm feeling sick, for example, and I'm traveling, I will take the time to stop so that I can get well. Or if I feel something coming on, I will be like, okay, it's time for us to take a little hiatus from the fast-paced travel, just so that we can make sure that all is good. I think it's really important for you to start to learn your body and learn what helps you whenever you're on the road. And you don't have to travel like anyone else. You can travel however you want. It's just important for you to travel in a way that you feel comfortable and safe. And I think that that is the most valuable lesson that van life has in fact taught me. And I think that that is something that I could share with you guys, even on a day like today where I can't really function completely. In fact, on a day like today, these are the days that we should be talking about this. They're the no good, very bad days, the days that give us a hard time, that test us, that make us struggle, the days that don't feel nice, that we don't feel like we should get up and function, and yet we have to push through. It's just like whenever you're at a sticks and bricks. You have options that you can go with, but at the same time, you have to pick the one that feels the best for you. And the nice thing about like what I do is, because I'm self-employed, on days like today, typically, I can just decide to have an office day. It's no big deal. I set my own schedule, so it works out. Now, if you do have a job on the road, this may not be the case. So that's something to also consider when you're setting up your life on the road. How will you deal with situations like this? And that's really why I wanted to share this video, because it's the days like today that are just weird. They're just super weird. You wake up, you're uncomfortable, you're kind of grumpy because you're uncomfortable, you don't feel the best, and things are just much harder than usual. And that says a lot, because van life is kind of hard sometimes. A simple task can turn into a much more complicated task just because you're in a van. But then you add an element like an injury, and well, the life gets real weird real fast. But on a positive note, the day is beautiful. It feels nice outside. And so instead of being down in our sadness and grumpy about how we feel, we're gonna enjoy this day when we're on the outside. You know, videos like this are not necessarily my favorite videos to create, when we don't get to do adventures and we're just talking about regular stuff. But at the same time, I think that they're the more useful videos because they do show the realities of all the stuff that's going on out there. And I think that when people kind of understand a little bit more about the road, they feel more comfortable and confident that they can tackle it. Because if you see somebody's worst case scenario and you're like, oh, okay, I could deal with that, it's a lot easier for you to see yourself doing something for yourself by getting out there and adventuring. And I think that there's a lot of value to that. Whenever I started out my channel, I really wanted people to see the things that I was doing and feel inspired to get out and do their own adventures. And I think that it's really important as we're going through these various steps and things like that to share the full picture, because even though like yesterday we were out doing this amazing museum and it was epic and our fun was so great, the very next day life had the great equalizer and was like, really? That's what you want to do? Okay, I see you. And so that's kind of just how normal life is. You have a good day, you have a bad day. The goal is just to have more good days than bad days. And a lot of that can come from your attitude. Like this morning I woke up and I was really struggling, super struggling, because I didn't know if I was going to be able to do things. But at the same time, I am pushing through, which is all about having a positive attitude. So with that said, we're almost to Starbucks. Thank goodness. But we can still do a thumbs up. We like that. It's a baby thumbs up, but it's there. Okay, now it's time for us to dump our trash. So I'm going to roll down my window just a little bit, because that's what I do whenever I get out of the van. I'm going to collect any kind of trash that I have, and let's go. Now you might be asking, why do I roll my window down? If I keep my key in, I roll my window down so I don't lock myself out. Normally I just take my keys. However, hard, very hard. No one's here. It doesn't really matter. There's only one person next to me and it's fine. But we got our trash out. Yay. Normally I would also get some gas. However, getting gas is going to be super hard with only one hand currently. And I still have half a tank, I think. Yep, we should be good for right now, so I'm not going to worry about that at this moment, but we're almost at Starbucks. It's another one of those things where you figure out what your priorities really are whenever you're hurt. If your priorities aren't that you have to, you don't do. That's kind of my go-to thought on any time that you don't feel well. If you don't have to do it, you can always wait to do it later. And getting gas is one of those things right now. Now this is about to be the super fun part. I have to get my computer bag, which is really heavy, and I have to carry it in. Again, normally I would do this with my right hand. My left hand is dumb. It's just dumb and it's not strong. So this is gonna be a task, but I have to put a few things inside my bag first. Okay guys, I'm here to work, and so with that said, if you have ever experienced a day like this, make sure that you leave a comment below. Remember guys, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time, but days like today are definitely gonna challenge that. Be prepared, it's out there. But if you're willing to endure, it's definitely worth it.